Pebas Sea was a vast inland sea that once covered large parts of northwestern South America. Emerging during the Mesozoic, this shallow marine system extended across what is now Colombia, Peru, Brazil, and even North Argentina, shaping the region's ecosystems for millions of years. As the sea gradually disappeared, it gave way to the modern Amazon basin, transforming the landscape from a marine environment into the world's largest and oldest tropical rainforest. During the Cretaceous period, when the Pebas Sea reached its greatest extent, it hosted a rich and diverse ecosystem, teeming with marine life. One of the best records of this ancient sea is found in the Paja Formation of Colombia, a geological formation dating back to the early Cretaceous. This fossil-rich deposit has yielded spectacular remains of giant marine reptiles alongside many ammonites. These fossils provide a glimpse into a time when the region was dominated by vast, shallow waters, home to some of the most formidable predators of the Mesozoic seas. A pine fossil in the formation indicates a coastal environment around this sea. Like many marine ecosystems of the Mesozoic, the vast majority of fossil remains consist of ammonites, those cephalopod mollusks of which we know almost only the hard shell. These ammonites are crucial for biostratigraphic studies and offer insights into the marine environments of that era. Research indicates that the Paja Formation contains a diverse array of ammonite species, including members of the Pulchulidae and Ancyloceras families. Studies have focused on the development and distribution of these ammonites within the formation, highlighting their significance in understanding the Permian marine successions in Colombia. Ancyloceras was characterized by its partially uncoiled shell, which gave it a distinctive curved shape. These ammonites were likely nectonic, slow-moving swimmers, inhabiting shallow marine environments, where they fed on small crustaceans and other planktonic organisms. The complex shell morphology of Ancyloceras suggests an adaptation to a buoyant but maneuverable lifestyle, possibly drifting in the water column rather than actively pursuing prey like more streamlined ammonites. Crioceratites is coiled in an open, normally equiangular spiral with an oval or subquadrate whorl section. The surface is banded by fine, dense, rounded ribbing sectioned by periodically spaced thick and often spinose ribs. Many species of this genus has been found in this formation. Some crustacean species were part of the environment, including rhoninoid crabs. The fossil remains of cartilaginous and bony fish are surprisingly rarer. Desmatochelys was a large sea turtle, with some specimens reaching up to 2 meters long. Members of the genus are characterized by the extended skull roof, large nasal bones, and a paddle-like humerus, as well as a distinct body shell or carapace and reduced plastron like other protostegids. Nothing is known of this turtle's reproductive strategy, with the exception of their egg development. It is hypothesized to have laid rigid eggs instead of the soft-shelled eggs typical of extant marine turtles, as a closely related protostegid has been shown to do. Leyvachelys is the earliest recorded sandownid turtle in the world and the first of this family discovered in South America. The fossil find consists of a fairly complete skull, a well-preserved lower jaw and postcrania with an almost complete carapace. The abundant occurrence of mollusks, principally ammonites, some of them preserved associated with the carapace of these turtles, suppose a potential source of food for its durophagous diet adaptation, which could have also included arthropods, as for example crabs. Callawayasaurus measured up to 10 meters in length and possessed a notably elongated neck comprising 56 relatively short vertebrae, a characteristic feature of the Elasmosauridae family. Unlike some related plesiosaurs, it lacked pectoral bars, a trait it shares with genera such as Terminonatator. For decades, the original skull was missing from Colombia's National Geology Museum, with only a resin replica on display. In 2018, the University of California Museum of Paleontology returned the original skull to Colombia, rectifying a long-standing absence and restoring a significant piece of the nation's paleontological heritage. Elasmosaurids, often depicted with highly flexible necks, likely had relatively stiff and inflexible ones in life. While fossilized gut contents show they fed on small prey like fish, crustaceans, and cephalopods, the exact function of their long necks remains uncertain. The recently described Leivanectes bernardois in this region adds to their diversity, measuring about 9 meters long and having fewer but proportionally larger teeth, possibly suited for larger, tougher prey. However, since it is only known from a partial skull, details about its full anatomy and ecology remain unknown. Stenorhynchosaurus is a pliosaur, part of a group of marine reptiles characterized by a large, robust body and short neck. It was a medium-sized pliosaur, measuring around 5 meters in length, with strong jaws and teeth adapted for capturing large prey. Its diet likely included large fish, smaller marine reptiles and possibly squid, as indicated by its tooth structure and predatory nature. Acostasaurus is another extinct genus of pliosaurid marine reptiles. The type species, Acostasaurus pavichoquensis, is known from a near-complete skull, a complete hind limb, and various vertebrae. This specimen is estimated to have been over 4 meters in length. Notable features include large, rounded orbits with deeply notched dorsally positioned sclerotic rings, suggesting adaptations for vision in deep or murky waters. Additionally, it possessed a short mandibular symphysis with only 6 pairs of functional alveoli, distinguishing it from other contemporary pliosaurids. Sachicasaurus was a large pliosaur, with the type specimen measuring approximately 10 meters long and weighing 17 tons. Its notable features include a very short mandibular symphysis and a reduced number of mandibular teeth, around 18 versus 25 to 40 in other pliosaurids. These characteristics suggest adaptations for a specialized feeding strategy, although the exact nature of its diet remains a subject of ongoing research. But its immense size still suggests that it was adapted to hunt large prey, such as elasmosaurids. It is one of the largest and most complete pliosaurid specimens. Slightly smaller than the previous pliosaur, Monquirasaurus was still gigantic, measuring 9.5 meters in length. Its full size is well known thanks to a nearly complete fossil found in Villa de Leyva. The pliosaurs of the Paja Formation are characterized by this unique dental arrangement, including 4 large premaxillary teeth with a diastema between the premaxillary and maxillary teeth. The first maxillary tooth is notably large and often followed by smaller caniniforms, while the mandibular teeth also exhibit a similar progression from large anterior teeth to smaller posterior ones. As Platypterygius contains multiple species not especially close to each other, little can be said in terms of shared characteristics. According to an analysis by Fisher, all anatomical features used to unify Platypterygius species are either not actually present in each species, or much more widespread among unrelated ophthalmosaurs. Generally, species referred to this genus were large-bodied macropredators based on their robust dentition. The species found in this geological formation was only named in 2024. The first definite ichthyosaur fossil found in Colombia was a well-preserved skull, discovered in the 70s. Initially classified as a species of Platypterygius, it was later reclassified in 2021 as Kyhytysuka. This mid-sized ichthyosaur, measuring around 5 meters long, had a large head and robust snout, with specialized teeth for catching, slicing, and crushing prey. Its ability to open its jaws up to 75 degrees suggests it could tackle large prey, possibly even other marine reptiles. Kyhytysuka represents the first known Cretaceous ichthyosaur with an apex predator role, converging on ecological traits seen in earlier Triassic and Jurassic species. The analysis could indicate that while Platypterygius probably had a generalist diet, Muiscasaurus was a much more specialized form, feeding on smaller and softer prey items. This would show that during the Cretaceous period in the Neotropics, ichthyosaurs kept some ecological diversity. It must have a compact and streamlined body, with a tail shaped like a half-moon and all four legs transformed into flippers. Padillasaurus is currently the only terrestrial animal found in this mainly marine geological formation. Its presence suggests that the sea was relatively narrow between the lands of the island continent that was South America at the time. This sauropod, once thought to be a late member of the Brachiosaurids, likely lived along the coastline of the Pebas Sea, or perhaps its remains were carried away by the currents after its death, taking it far from the shore. The Pebas Formation is a lithostratigraphic unit of Miocene age, found in western Amazonia. The formation extends over 1 million square kilometers, including parts of Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia. It is interpreted as representing the deposits of a sea or series of lakes, formed within the foreland basin of the Andes mountain belt. Here, we will focus on the ecosystem found in northern Peru. The rise of the Andes transformed the landscape of the ancient Mesozoic Sea into a mega-wetland, and these lacustrine systems would soon disappear as the Andes continued to form, driven by the tectonic plates to the west. The formation is known for its abundant fossil ostracods and mollusks and an unusually diverse group of crocodilians. A few insects have been found in amber, but in this ecosystem, they were likely very abundant. Of course, there were countless fish in this lacustrine system, although the Pebas Formation does not fully reflect this diversity. Chelus is a genus of turtles still represented by modern species, the Motomatus, but the Miocene species was slightly larger. The appearance of these turtles' shell resembles a piece of bark, and its head resembles fallen leaves. As it remains motionless in the water, its skin flaps enable it to blend into the surrounding vegetation until a fish comes close. It thrusts out its head and opens its large mouth as wide as possible, creating a low-pressure vacuum that sucks the prey into its mouth, known as suction feeding. It snaps its mouth shut, the water is slowly expelled, and the fish is swallowed whole. The Motomata cannot chew due to the way its mouth is constructed. The same goes for Podocnemis. Modern species still inhabit the same lands as their ancestors. These turtles feed almost entirely on plant material such as fruits, seeds, leaves, legumes and algae, but may also take freshwater sponges, eggs, and carcasses of dead animals. Among freshwater turtles, Podocnemids have among the longest aquatic migratory patterns, rarely leaving the water except to bask. In life, Gryposuchus would have resembled a 10-meter-long gharial, a crocodile that has a particularly long and narrow snout. Gharials are known to eat almost entirely fish when full-grown, and it is possibly that Gryposuchus hunted in a similar way for particularly large fish species. It also seems to have been active in both coastal and freshwater locations, further increasing its ability to find prey, perhaps also including marine mammals into their diet. Mourasuchus was a unique crocodile with an extremely flat and broad skull, resembling the Stomatosuchus from the late Cretaceous. Its teeth were small, conical, and interlocking, suggesting a weak bite, and its long, slender humerus indicates a highly aquatic lifestyle. While its exact feeding strategy remains uncertain, researchers propose that it engaged in gulp feeding, consuming small animals in large quantities. Unlike modern crocodilians, Mourasuchus was likely incapable of performing a death roll due to its specialized skull structure and weak bite force. Paleosuchus is a genus of crocodiles with modern species known as dwarf caimans, and as their name suggests, they are small crocodilians. Their size must have starkly contrasted with the enormous species they lived alongside. Paleosuchus is distinguished from other caimans in the subfamily Caimanaini by the absence of an interorbital ridge and the presence of 4 teeth in the premaxilla region of the jaw, where other species of caimans have 5. These caimans are mainly nocturnal. Because they occupy many different microhabitats, their diet is believed to vary regionally. The prey is mostly swallowed whole and is ground up by stones in the gizzard. The disoxic marshes and swamps of the Pebas Formation were home to a great diversity of freshwater invertebrates with a total of 85 co-occurring endemic species, most abundant of which being corbulid pachydontine bivalves. These bivalves possess thick shells, profuse ornamentation, and a series of other adaptations against predation. However, both successful and unsuccessful scaring caused by crushing predation can be found commonly in these bivalve fossils. This, alongside the specialized dentition and other adaptations of Gnatusuchus, point to a durophagous diet in these caimans. Furthermore, the particular shape of Gnatusuchus may also point to its specific feeding strategy. Purussaurus was one of the largest crocodilians to have ever lived, reaching up to 12.5 meters in length and weighing several tons. This giant caiman thrived during the Miocene in South America, dominating prehistoric waterways as an apex predator. Its skull was massive, with an extremely powerful bite force estimated to be among the strongest of any known animal, allowing it to hunt large prey. Unlike modern crocodilians, Purussaurus may have been less aquatic due to its proportionally shorter limbs, suggesting it could move more effectively on land. All sense organs were at the very top of the head, indicating that it was an ambush predator like many modern caimans. Fossil evidence also suggests it played a key role in shaping its ecosystem, influencing the diversity and behavior of other species in its habitat. Kuttanacaiman was so named because the teeth of this crocodile seemed to be best adapted for crunching through the shells of freshwater bivalve mollusks, like Gnatusuchus, and they also seem to have had the same dietary preference. Both of them were also described in the same paper. Kuttanacaiman is so far known from Peru, and the location that the type fossils were found in would have been swamps that would have been full of bivalves for them to eat. Caiman wanlangstoni was a small to medium-sized caiman, estimated to be around 2 meters long, with a high, robust snout and strong, rounded teeth adapted for crushing hard-shelled prey like mollusks. As the Andes uplift continued, reshaping South America's waterways, it adapted to more oxygen-rich river environments in the Orinoco Basin by the late Miocene. The species was part of an ecosystem dominated by crusher caimans, but these highly specialized reptiles eventually went extinct, replaced by more generalist caimans that persist today. Due to its far northern distribution in South America, Pseudoprepitherium was probably more adapted to tropical climate conditions. Their known remains are limited to limb bones, except for a few skulls and teeth. Based on these remains, they were most likely medium to large-sized mylodontid. A tibia of Pseudoprepitherium shows over 60 bite marks likely caused by a juvenile Purussaurus, with the size of the marks suggesting the predator was around 4 meters long and attacked using its front teeth, similar to modern crocodile behavior. Neoepiblum, a giant prehistoric rodent, measured about 1.5 meters and weighed 80 kilograms, yet it had a surprisingly small brain, weighing only 47 grams instead of the expected 114 grams. Researchers used advanced imaging techniques to analyze a well-preserved skull, revealing that its brain's low neuron density may have been inefficient, consuming more energy without offering survival advantages. This large rodent lived in the Amazon region 10 million years ago and faced limited predation, mainly from passive crocodilians, which did not require complex survival strategies. Like its close relatives, Pebanista possesses enlarged crests that would have covered the melon in life, possibly helping to focus their biosonar while hunting in murky waters. It further stands out as being the largest river dolphin yet discovered, reaching lengths between 2.8 to 3.5 meters at minimum, much larger than the biggest recorded freshwater cetaceans of today. Given its relatively robust if elongated snout, it is thought that Pebanista was an active predator, profiting from the rich prey selection available to it in the enormous Pebas wetlands. The supraorbital crests show some areas of varying density, with the outer section being denser than those more medially. Given that the supraorbital crests arch across the upper surface of the skull and are concave along their inner surface, thus covering the melon, it has been suggested that the crest served as a tool to focus the sound waves emitted by the animal's biosonar. In the extant species, the crest is even more developed, with echolocation serving such a dominant function in locating prey in murky water that modern Platanista are nearly blind. A few million years have passed, and now we move a little further south. The Pebas Sea has completely retreated, driven away by the rising Andes. The ecosystem has changed, transforming into a tropical savanna and reshaping the fauna that inhabits this new environment. We have arrived in the Ipururo Formation. The climate has cooled slightly, and the vast diversity of crocodiles from the previous formation has greatly diminished, making way for mammals, large mammals. At this time, South America is still an island continent, its fauna preserved and unique, allowing notoungulates, for example, to evolve in convergence with ungulates from the rest of the world. This isolation will later be shattered by the formation of the Isthmus of Panama. We stand at the dawn of this extinction. Mourasuchus was a massive terrestrial predator. As a member of the Cebacidae family, it was a land-dwelling crocodiliform with long legs adapted for running rather than swimming. Estimates suggest Mourasuchus reached lengths of up to 10 meters and weighed 1,700 kilograms, making it one of the largest terrestrial predators of the Cenozoic era. Its skull was tall and laterally compressed, featuring serrated, knife-like teeth similar to those of theropod dinosaurs, indicating a carnivorous diet. It was heterodont, meaning that it possessed two types of teeth. Those of the premaxilla and the front of the maxilla were longer and more conical than those further back, which were shorter and thinner. The caimans with a less specialized diet from the previous geological formation survived the disappearance of the Pebas Sea, adapting to the rivers that gradually gave rise to the Amazon. The caiman found specifically in this formation does not yet have a definitive species name, but it appears to closely resemble modern caimans, possibly representing a species that first emerged during this time. The dynamide rodents are thought to have occupied ecological niches associated with large grazing mammals due to their ability to compete with the native ungulates of South America. Also, they could feed on aquatic plants along the ancient rivers. The octodontoid rodent Acostasaurus was abundant during the early Miocene and had the widest temporal and geographic distribution of any extinct caviomorph. Despite this extensive fossil record, Acostasaurus has not been well characterized. A great variety of glyptodonts can be observed in this formation, with significant differences in size depending on the genus. Boreostema is an extinct genus of glyptodonts closely related to Glyptodon. It is characterized by its armored carapace composed of osteoderms, a common feature among glyptodonts. These animals are thought to have been herbivores that fed on low-lying vegetation, with mixed feeding or grazing-based diets. Some glyptodonts were likely selective feeders, while others were likely bulk feeders. Resembling a giant armadillo, Glyptodon possessed a massive, dome-shaped carapace composed of over 1,000 bony plates called osteoderms, providing substantial protection against predators. Individuals could reach lengths of up to 3.5 meters and weigh approximately 2,000 kilograms. Despite their formidable armor, studies suggest that glyptodons engaged in intraspecific combat, using their heavy, flexible tails to deliver powerful blows to rivals' carapaces. Their diet primarily consisted of coarse vegetation, which they processed with deep jaws and flat, ridged teeth adapted for grinding plant material. Many armadillo species have digging capabilities, with large claws adapted for scraping dirt in order to make burrows or forage for food underground. These animals survived long after this geological formation, only going extinct at the end of the Pleistocene, coinciding with the arrival of the first humans in this part of the world. Neoglyptatelys, with its long and narrow skull devoid of teeth, probably was an insectivorous animal. It probably fed on ants, like the extant nine-banded armadillo, which has a quite similar skull. It was hence equipped with a shield rigid in most of its structure, but flexible in the middle of the back. This is a unique structure for a cingulate, the glyptodonts only having a completely rigid structure formed by fixed osteoderms, and the modern armadillos having several mobile bands in the middle of their backs. There were also several species of ground sloths roaming the plains of this formation. Eremotherium was one of the largest ground sloths, with a body size comparable to elephants, weighing around 4.5 tons and measuring about 6 meters long, slightly larger than its close relative Megatherium. Eremotherium was widespread in tropical and subtropical lowlands and lived there in partly open and closed landscapes, while its close relative Megatherium lived in more temperate climes of South America. Characteristic of Eremotherium was its robust physique with comparatively long limbs and front and hind feet, especially for later representatives' 3 fingers. However, the skull is relatively gracile, the teeth are uniform and high-crowned. Like today's sloths, it was purely herbivorous and was probably a mixed feeder that dined on leaves and grasses that adapted its diet to local environments and climates. Like Megatherium, Eremotherium is suggested to have been capable of adopting a bipedal posture to feed on high-growing leaves. The presence of Notioamastodon indicates the rapid arrival of the first animals from North America. It seems that this species coexisted for some time with the local species. Notioamastodon arrived in South America along with many other animals of North American origin as part of the Great American Interchange following the formation of the Isthmus of Panama connecting the 2 continents during the Pliocene epoch, with the earliest records of gomphotheres in South America dating to the beginning of the Pleistocene around 2.5 million years ago. It is thought to have been a generalist mixed feeder that fed on a variety of plants, with its diet varying according to local conditions. Like living elephants, Notioamastodon is thought to have lived in family groups, with adult males suggested to have had mouse-like behavior. Notoungulates are a peculiar branch of mammals that evolved locally, converging with ungulates. Myocacylius was an animal the size of a large cat. Notoungulates were isolated when South America broke its connections with North America, and thereafter evolved in isolation, achieving great diversity. Early notoungulates were quite small, but soon some grew to large size. Myocacylius was one of the most advanced towards running ability. It had fairly long and slender legs on its long body, and ran on only 2 hoof-tip toes per foot. Astrapotheres were large, elephant-like animals and have been called one of the most bizarre orders of mammals with an enigmatic evolutionary history. The taxonomy of this order is not clear, but it may belong to Meridiungulata. Granastrapotherium, larger than its coeval Xenostrapotherium, weighed between 3 and 4 tons and had tusks about 1 meter long, making it one of the largest Astropotheria. It had a single premolar, lacked incisors in both jaws, and featured large, horizontal canines that resembled tusks of ancient elephant. Its nostrils were notably withdrawn, suggesting it had a larger trunk compared to other astrapotheres. Like elephants, this species likely used its muscular proboscis and tusks to strip leaves from trees and shrubs. Xenostrapotherium differed from other astrapotheres by having 2 lower incisors on each side of the jaw, and the tusks have a pronounced longitudinal curvature, although their general shape and size are probably very similar to Astropotherium, whose weight would be 900 to 1500 kilograms. The animal was probably at least partially aquatic, living in shallow water in a similar manner to a modern hippopotamus. Theosodon was a terrestrial, cursorial animal that likely inhabited both forests and open landscapes. With its large size and long neck, it was probably a high browser, feeding on leaves from trees and shrubs high above the ground. Its slender jaw, in contrast to many other litopterns, suggests it fed on softer vegetation, such as dicotyledons. The upward-facing nostrils, located centrally on its head, may have been an adaptation for feeding on thorny plants, similar to how modern giraffes use their rearward-facing nostrils to feed on such vegetation. Although some authors have suggested that Toxodon was semi-aquatic based on the similarity of some aspects of its anatomy to hippopotamuses, this has been disputed by other authors. An analysis of oxygen isotope ratios suggests a terrestrial lifestyle for Toxodon. As such, it has been suggested that Toxodon was probably more ecologically comparable to rhinoceroses. It is suggested to have been capable of moving at considerable speed. Toxodon is believed to have been ecologically plastic and have had a wide niche breadth, with its diet varying according to local conditions, with an almost totally browsing diet in the rainforest, mixed feeding in the pampas. Paracotoxodon was a large herbivore, about 800 kilograms, with a skull similar in size to the Sumatran rhino. As you can see, it has a very curious mandible with a notable chin, which looks the skull a bit like a bucket of a backhoe. The genus name, Paracotoxodon, is derived from Paraco, which was named after José Espiritu Paraco, who discovered the holotype in the La Gaviota locality from the Paja Formation of Colombia.